He's the associate head coach and head coach in waiting of the Aztecs. Brian Dutcher joins us on the Western Exterminator Hotline. And Brian, Coach Dutcher, how are you?
Things are going great, John. It's good to be with you tonight.
Great to have you on. First of all, tell me how Madness on the Mesa turned out last Friday night. I heard a good group of fans came out, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4,000 fans, I heard.
It was really exciting. I mean, those that came were enthusiastic. We had them lined up around the building to get in. And then once the show started, I thought it was pretty special. We had some recruits in, which obviously helped our program, and the men's and women's team, I thought, did a great job in putting on a show for our fans.
Hey, how cool is it to have a head coach on the ladies' side like Beth Burns, who's such a class act and such an incredible coach?
I always say she might be the best coach on campus. There is no one that pays greater attention to detail than Beth. She gets the most out of her talent. She's a relentless worker and just a wonderful person. And I think it's great also that the men's and women's programs have such a great relationship. A lot of times there's tension between a men's and women's program. But with us, it's like we help one another out. We talk X and O together. We try to help each other's team get better. And it's a great combination to have Beth with us.
Hey, Brian, when you were back at Michigan working with Steve Fisher, a lot of this stuff started to kind of come on, the Midnight Madness at different universities. Did you guys have that when you were at Michigan?
You know, John, back then, the only time I felt it was worth having was if we were going to be on ESPN, because back then they televised certain numbers of them.
Uh-huh.
And the only reason I wanted to do it from a personal standpoint was if we got a recruiting boost out of it. Like the national audience would see what we were all about at Michigan. Other than that, we didn't get the kind of support that we get here as far as student support at that time, where we knew we could put enough people in the building that it would be a worthwhile event.
Brian Dutcher, our guest here on San Diego Sports Leader, XX1090 on the Western Exterminator Hotline. The one thing that I would be concerned with, I guess if I was a head coach or the head coach in waiting and a guy that brings in all these big-time recruits, a lot of times these guys go out there all fired up. They want to slam dunk. They want to reverse slam dunk. They want to jump over a teammate and slam dunk. Do you guys worry a little bit about the players trying to do a little bit too much and maybe injure themselves when all the fans are in there for the very first time in this madness on the Mesa?
That's a great point, John, and you are absolutely correct. We worry a little bit about injuries, and maybe not so much in the slam dunk contest. We think they've done this for a long time, and there's not a lot of chance of injury. But when we start scrimmaging for the first time in front of people, we kind of didn't know if our kids would actually play tough on defense or really try to set hard ball screens and put our guys in tough situations they weren't ready for. And as it turned out, it was more of an NBA All-Star game. I don't think there was defensive intensity from other team. It was more of a dunk contest on the fly. Nobody really set any screens. It was more freelance up and down. If a guy had a lane to the basket, they let him go and have the dunk. And our kids did a good job with that. They kept it entertaining. The game was, 51-49. It was close, and it was really just an offensive show.
Hey, that's pretty cool. The Chargers linebacker, a good young guy, Donald Butler, came out and took part in that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. We had I get a little concerned when we've got football players judging a dunk contest. But, John, every football player that ever played the game thinks he's a basketball player. So I'm sure they thought they knew what they were watching.
Hey, then Saturday you guys have practice, and you're practicing right now. And first of all, how's it going? And how do you know, and you've been at it a long time, you and Coach Fisher working together, how do you know when to back off and when to push them a little bit early in the year to where guys aren't going to be, wore out to come back to practice the next day?
John, they look tired today. And as a rule, we try not to stay on the floor even early in the year more than 2.5 hours. And that's a pretty lengthy practice. As the season goes on, we'll cut that down to 2 and then an hour and a half. But what we didn't take into account today was we lifted weights for an hour before we went on the floor. So we had them on their feet for 3.5 hours, and they were dragging at the end. And then when they start dragging, you worry someone's going to get hurt. But they give us great efforts. but they were definitely fatigued at the end of today's workout.
Coach Brian Dutcher, our guest here on San Diego Sports Leader, XX1090. We talked with Mark Fisher last week. Brian, talking about the great talent and the depth. And, I'll ask you, because you've been at it a long time, you've got a lot of talent. You've got some guys that are in the upper class. You got a lot of great freshmen, some guys that redshirted that are D1 bounce-back players, 3 of them that are going to be eligible this year. How do you go getting the playing time to give all these guys a legitimate shot to show what they can do when the lights really come on?
Yeah, John, we're no different than a lot of fans. We'll put it on paper. We'll say, well, this is a guy that probably should start, and this guy probably is better suited to come off the bench, and this guy's a freshman. He might not quite be ready yet. But then Coach Fisher, being the wise man he is, a wise coach, he just says all that will settle itself on the floor. Some guys will rise, some guys will fall, and all the stuff we do on paper is not going to matter. These kids will settle that on the floor. And to a large part, he's correct. Some guys are starting to rise a little bit faster than the others, and some guys have got to catch up. And when it's all said and done, the best players will be on the floor.
Brian, watching the NBA, and I know you watch a lot of basketball at all levels, but, in the NBA it's become so specialized. They go with a big lineup or a small lineup. How about college basketball? It seems like it's going that way a little bit more, kind of like the NBA, where coaches are playing more matchups now than they used to.
Absolutely, John. I mean, how many true centers are left in the NBA? And then you look at college, and where are the true centers? The guys that have that back-to-the-basket game that can back down, score over people. And not only centers, where are the power forwards? Where all of a sudden you've got that physical strength and size down low in both positions. The way the game's evolved now, you've got stretch fours, guys that are more suited to play either a small forward that are out there trying to play the power forward. They're spreading the floor more. They're trying to take more advantage of the dribble drive. And the game has changed a lot over the years. And it's not just at the college level, it's also at the pro level, and it's more of a speed game, a spread-the-floor game than it ever has been in the past.
Hey, you guys are getting ready to start your 14th season together here at San Diego State. You were together at Michigan, part of a national championship. Coach Fisher takes a job with Sacramento. He gets a job here. He hires you. When you rolled in here the first day, and you probably didn't know a whole lot about San Diego State and the history, the only thing I can tell you is most of the coaches that came here, this was their last stop because they weren't able to get it done. You guys have been able to get it done on a national level to this point in time. When you first rolled in here, Dutch, what did you think? I mean, how did you go about getting this thing turned around?
Johnny, the San Diego State and the students did a lot to help us turn this thing around. And first of all, it was probably facilities. When Viejas Arena opened, it gave San Diego State a legitimate on-campus facility. And when they played at Peterson Gym, I'm sure it was a home court advantage, but it got dated. They went to the downtown arena. That wasn't on campus. I'm sure it was tough to get the students there. But we walked into a situation where we had an arena on campus that no one in the past had had. Fred Trankel got into it, but he didn't have it long enough to really recruit to it. And so the Students Association that voted on that arena gave us a real head start. And then obviously we had to sell our vision. There was nothing tangible to say, well, look what we've done in the past at San Diego State. We were talking about what we'd done at Michigan. But like Coach Fisher said, in 5 years we're still talking about what we did at Michigan. We haven't done anything here. And so we sold a vision, and young guys like Randy Holcomb, who just went in the Aztec Hall of Fame, and Tony Bland, they came based on our vision, and they helped turn that vision into a conference championship. And then we built it from there. And now we seem to be a fixture at NCAA tournament time and fighting for conference titles. And it's just been a real treat to be a part of all that.
Now, you guys open up. You got a couple of exhibition games on November 1st against Cal State San Marcos at Viejas Arena. Then you come back 4 days later on the 5th. You got UC San Diego in an exhibition at Viejas Arena. And everything's leading up to that November 9th, the USS Midway, the battle on the Midway, going against the great Jim Boeheim and the Syracuse Orangemen. How exciting is this for you to see where this program is at right now, but also a guy that's one of the great recruiters in college basketball to be able to showcase your team on national TV again?
It's great to play in one of these 3 aircraft carrier games. I mean, if you'd have said that 14 years ago that San Diego State was going to play a national event basketball-wise, people would have laughed. And now it's a reality. And the exhibition games are going to help us in that regard. You know, the nice thing with exhibition games, these coaches are, you know, they're helpful to us. So even though they may not be zone teams, we'll ask them to play us some 2-3 zones so we can get used to a little zone offense. And they try to help us out. They don't just come in and say, well, we're going to try to beat you. We'll ask them, hey, would you guys mind playing a half a game of zone? And they'll do that for us because they're good people. And then Syracuse, I guess the concern, John, is to play it outside. I know we looked at the stats last year when Michigan State played North Carolina on the aircraft carrier. Michigan State was 2 for 22 from three-point range. And obviously Syracuse's zone is good enough indoors, but to play it outdoors, if we get conditions with a little wind and a little different depth perception, we're a little bit concerned about shooting against that zone on an outdoor game.
Are you guys going to get an opportunity, like practice there the day before, have a shoot around that morning?
I think we'll get an hour the day before, but we're also talking about trying to get a little outdoor shooting in leading up to it. So don't be surprised if you're driving along somewhere and all of a sudden you look out there and the Aztecs are in an outdoor court getting some shooting in.
Yeah, we'll have to get a hold of one of the weather guys here in town and find out what the weather report is for that day.
Absolutely. We're going to have to check the weather, and we're going to have to see where the sun is at in the background and what kind of breeze we're going to have coming off the ocean that day.
Hey, you got to make it a home court advantage, okay?
Absolutely.
Hey, last question, and I'm pretty excited about this, and that's the Aztecs are going to play in the John R. Wooden Classic, and I'll be honest, UCLA is going to be very good this year, but I think the last few years, I think maybe if you wanted to put a game together with UCLA, they might not necessarily wanted to take that, and if they did, it would have definitely had to be at Pauley Pavilion before they renovated it. But how excited are you to be able to be in the Wooden Classic and go against UCLA?
To play with anything with John Wooden's name on it is a great honor to start with. So to play in an event named after him is a real treat for all of us. And then get a chance to play the Bruins for the first time in 14 years is going to be super exciting. And for our fans to be able to get tickets to say, hey, we can fill half that building or 3/4 of that building with Aztec fans, you know, let's get out there. Let's make that our home game. Let's get more Aztec fans there than Bruin fans. And let's take a run at the Bruins and see if we can't put an L on them.
Yeah, that'll be one heck of a game because both teams are going to come in very, very talented. Dutch, keep them going, stay healthy, and we'll look forward to doing this again.
Thanks, John.